progressively got louder. Alright, I guess I'll do another video game video while I'm walking back from this huge long special that I just got. So, I was talking about that, why overly beta testing games is wrong because, it ruins the sense of adventure. It's like spoiling it. And I've always said before that I kind of feel like probably a reason that I get a lot of hate is because I've been able to spoil all these games so early. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are not really smart enough, even though they would like to be. They would like to be the ones that are able to spoil the game, to anticipate how a game is going to work, right? So they get mad that I'm able to do it. But, something that I do see some people talk about, and I want to talk about, but in a roundabout kind of way, a different kind of coming at it from a different angle, is that when, people start playing these games so early, especially, there's been many instances of, let's say, content creators or top players or players within a certain sort of clique, they get to play the game early. And of course, I'm not the only one who has ever said that that's not fair. Of course it's unfair that someone gets special access to a game. They have a competitive advantage. But I want to talk about, again, a bit of a roundabout way of talking about it from a little bit of a different angle, or just to make you really think about just how much of a competitive advantage it is let's think about, even if the person is not good and they get to play the game early, from a certain perspective, right? So there's a guy, he commented on the channel, and he said that he's already been playing the game, for 5 months straight. And again, sorry, thank you for commenting on the channel. I have no idea if you're considered a good player or not, but for the sake of the argument, let's consider this dude that posted that he's already been playing Street Fighter 6 for 5 months during the cracked beta. Let's assume, for sake of argument, though, that he's not a quotation marks good player, right? I think people really underestimate, though, just how much, muscle memory can give you an advantage to a certain extent, right? Just how much, muscle memory, is useful in a video game, right? We can even take me for an example, right? Let's look at it like this. I've said many times before, Accent Core Plus R, whatever the fuck it's called, is not really a game I ever really played. I just did combo videos for it, right? But of course, there is some muscle memory from doing some combo videos for it. And of course, there is muscle memories because it's, a Guilty Gear game to a certain extent, that I have muscle memory in it, right? I'm kind of like, I'm rusty, so to speak, because I don't play, because I don't practice. The engine needs to be dust off or whatever, but there's actual muscle memory because I've actually played it a little bit. And I've said before, I've been surprised that I've been able to beat people in it. I don't consider myself that good in it. You know what I mean? Now, of course, people get mad at that because a lot of people, they talk about how amazing they are and how godlike they are, blah, 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 and how much I suck. And then you find out, oh, Clayton has beat them without practice, right? But if you think about that from a certain perspective, one, we already know that most people are not very good at video games, even though they claim to be. Most people can't actually talk about a video game, in an intelligent manner. And most people, very rarely can they do both, right? So what I'm getting at there is, even though I do not consider myself that amazing at Guilty Gears as so many of my haters do, despite losing to me, despite playing the game so magically magically tricks delicious. What is that thing? I don't know what I'm talking about. Lucky Charms, is that what the fucking is? I have the muscle memory from playing the game as a kid, right? You know what I mean? The engine needs to be dusted off a bit. And certainly there's so many fucking tricks and shenanigans in that game and matchup knowledge that I have no idea, because it's not a game I've ever taken seriously, right? I just did some tech videos, right, for Kai. And I guess I did some Soul stuff too, but you know what I mean? But the muscle memory is still there, right? If we look at games like Karnow's Revenge, remember I came back, I haven't played that game in how many fucking years? You know what I mean? But there was a time that I was actually considered the best in the world at that game. The Japanese had threads about me on 2chan and all this fucking bullshit. I was destroying people with ease. You know what I mean? People were saying I was cheating. You know what I mean? So even after all these years of never playing the game, you know what I mean? Although I was rusty, there's still a little bit of that engine is still there. The muscle memory is still sort of there, right? That I ended up beating, like what? Ended up winning for 4 months straight till they fucking got me banned, all that kind of shit, right? Just like when I was playing, say Super Turbo. I played the game as a kid, way back in the day, blah, blah, The point is, you can't underestimate muscle memory, right? Even, again, I'm not trying to say I'm amazing at any of these games anymore, but certainly, whether people want to admit it or not, I've won a fucking lot, right? So let's say this guy that, you know what I mean? He's been playing the game for 5 months straight. Now, again, forgive me. I don't know if the guy is considered a good player or not. No idea. If you're a good player, then pretend you suck for this argument, right? The fact is, even if you're not a top player, even if you're an average player or a bad player, having the game 5 months before somebody else when it's a brand new game, you're going to have some muscle memory that no one else is going to be able to compete with. Does that make sense? So I don't even think, it doesn't even necessarily matter. Of course we think, oh man, he's a top player too, and he gets special privilege. That's a double whammy from a certain perspective, right? But top player or not, you know what I mean? These people are going to be going into this game with muscle memory and a sense of what is going on that other people are just never going to be able to compete with, right? Their muscle memory is a spoiler, I guess what I'm trying to say, right? Like, even look at a game like, when I talk about muscle memory, and I've talked about this example before, some people are like, could I have won at Dragon Ball FighterZ? If I started playing Dragon Ball FighterZ, would I win? Because obviously, I definitely, apparently, as we've seen, there's definitely knowledge. I'm sure there's, again, it's not a game I've ever really played, but it's something to get at. You know what I mean? But there's certainly knowledge checks that apparently people don't want to admit is real, and then, Clayton's Vegeta Tech, all these other things were real, blah, 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 blah. Oh, man. I'm still getting over a cold, dude. What am I saying? Dragon Ball FighterZ. So it's still Dragon Ball FighterZ. Would I be able to do all this stuff if I played Dragon Ball FighterZ out of nowhere? There's no muscle memory whatsoever for playing the game in a real match, right? And, real matches, there's some muscle memory. Because you're like, oh, that's the situation, I do that. That's the situation, I do that, right? You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is the conversion right here. This is the conversion right here. Blah, 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 blah. You talk about people, playing a cracked beta for whatever, 5 months. And, of course, people were actually playing each other legitimately as well, able to play each other legitimately. It's like, man, the muscle memory is all over the place compared to, a person that's going to go into playing the game through normal means. So, I mean, I've said before, I feel like one of the hardest things is, though, to play devil's advocate on the other side, though, is, of course, I've said before, when you do play a lot of games and you don't, or when you dabble, I guess, when you dabble in a lot of other games and many games, but you don't play a certain game for a while, right? Maybe there's some muscle memory, and when we're talking about dusting off the cobwebs, dusting off the engine, however you want to say it, right? You got to get into the groove, trust the process of like, oh yeah, that's where I do this in this game, that's where I do this in this game. You know what I mean? I've used the example, Karna's Revenge. I got to remember to start mashing on jab like a motherfucker. I got to remember you punish this with this, blah, 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 blah. And, for that game, I've just said, half the time I'm just too old now, and, my fingers just aren't as fast. I just don't want to fucking mash on jab, half the match. I'm tired, right? But, you know what I mean? So, of course, there is that aspect, But, anti-air there, do that there, blah, 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 blah. That's how this game works. This game's a little bit different. You gotta, dust off, I guess, in a sense, you gotta dust off the cobwebs in a sense from that perspective as well. But anyway, I just want to talk about, more again, saying why it's so bad that games are so overly beta tested now. It takes away the sense of adventure. It's like a fucking, you could tease me a little bit, right? But I've said before, it's terrible. I should not be able to predict all these games like I have, And then also from the other perspective, it's not just, the top players, you know what I mean? Or the people in the clique that get special access to things that are not fair. You know what I mean? It's not only unfair for them, it's unfair for everybody if you're doing it, right? Plus, you got to think as well, another funny thing is too, when we live in today's like super patch culture where everything is just patched instantly in the first place, why the fuck do you need to beta test a game for a fucking year straight when you were putting out like 4 fucking patches a year? You know what I mean? It's just like, you're gonna fucking goddamn patch the game 4 times in a fucking year anyway, so who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? It's fucking, it's just whatever. Anyway, if you like the videos, like, sub, silly, comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. The end.